Hello, epic viewers from around the multiverse. Prepare to indulge in experiencing sheer bliss, because today, another riveting, captivating, stellar unboxing video is about to be brought to fruition. What item will I be unboxing? What item will I be opening? Without further delay, without further procrastination, allow me to elicit the box. What item is encompassed inside this bulky, hefty, tangible, nifty box? Let's find out. I'm going to demystify the answer to that inquiry right here, right now, so bear with me. It will only take me billions of picoseconds to extract the item from the box and subsequently flaunt it in front of the camera for you to feast your glorious eyes on. Here we go. The unboxing process is about to commence. The unboxing process is officially underway. What item have I prompted? What item have I elicited? What item is obscured by this envelope? Let's find out. I have extracted the one and only, revered, illustrious, renowned Dr. Mid-Nite action figure from the envelope. The box and the envelope can now be relegated to the trash. They can be consigned to the trash. Here we have the one and only epic, quintessential superhero who's known by the moniker of Dr. Mid-Nite. I forgot to extract his corresponding accessory from the envelope. Here we have his owl, who can be mounted onto his arm. Alrighty, so this Dr. Mid-Nite is a part of the DC Universe Classics action figure line. He was sculpted by the Four Horsemen Studios Corporation. They deserve their accolades for sculpting such a stupendous, high-quality Dr. Mid-Nite action figure. Unfortunately, he lacks double-jointed elbows. He lacks double-jointed knees. However, he does have a diaphragm joint. He has a ability to rotate his biceps. He can rotate his forearms. They rotate in tandem with one another. His head can be rotated. However, his cape encumbers his head articulation, so just be wary of that. His cape impedes his head articulation. He also has latitude for articulation in other areas of his body. All four of his appendages can be ascended and descended at your own discretion, which is always beneficial. There are 2 peg holes embedded in the bottom of his feet, so he can be mounted onto a stand. He stands roughly 6 inches tall. His visor cannot be removed, nor can his cape, unless you sever his cape at your own discretion. I don't advise doing so because it will just revamp the appearance of this figurine and exacerbate his appearance in every facet if he is devoid of his cape. I love his aesthetics, I love his deco, I love his sculpt, I love his hues, I love his shadings, I love his textures. His belt cannot be removed. He lacks articulation in his waist, so he cannot perform a waist swivel. He has 2-fisted hands. His fingers are devoid of finger joint articulation. He cannot perform an ankle pivot either, so his articulation is finite. Unfortunately, it seems as though his thighs cannot be rotated. He does have the ability to move his legs outwards and inwards. However, his wardrobe encumbers his leg movements. You can always sever his skirt, but I don't advise doing so. Now, unfortunately, he did not arrive in pristine condition. He did not arrive in mint condition. He did not arrive as advertised. He was advertised as being in very good condition. However, his condition is not aligned with the product listing or the description of the product listing. Now, it may be arduous to see unless you're up close in person. However, his nose is chipped, so this is conspicuous up close, and this truly agitates me. When an action figure is touted to be in very good condition, and when a stock photo of it is shown, it shouldn't ever arrive with a chipped nose. So it arrived with a chipped nose, and there's nothing I can really do to rectify it. I mean, I can take recourse, I can contact the seller, but in terms of being able to remedy the chipped nose without returning it, I would have to paint over it, and I would need to buy acrylic paint. That's another expense, and that's a hassle that I don't want to deal with. So this is a calamitous situation. The action figure arrived with a chipped nose. In conjunction with arriving with a chipped nose, he also arrived with a minor scratch on his visor. So that's annoying. It's arduous to see, it's cumbersome to see unless you have it illuminated, and if the scratches are not illuminated, and if you're not up close, and if your camera does not autofocus, then it's going to be cumbersome to notice from a distance, but up close you can notice it. Now I deactivated my camera's autofocus functionality because I don't like when it constantly recalibrates itself, so it's not going to be possible to pinpoint in this video unless I enable the autofocus feature once again and illuminate these defects. So his face, unfortunately, is marred with some scratches. His forehead is marred with scratches. It may be almost impossible to tell without that autofocus feature enabled, but there are some scratches on his forehead. There are some scuffs on his body. There's one right near his diaphragm joint, and his cape is devoid of plastic in a certain area. It's nice that his cape has creases, however, it should have plastic over here. It may be almost impossible to tell unless you are up close, but he's marred with some defects, and he wasn't in the condition as advertised. Now, if you can get past the defects, then maybe no big deal, but to me, I'm very meticulous, and I prefer to have my action figures in either mint condition or near mint condition. Now, I paid $10.95 for the action figure, but I would have desisted and completely abstained from buying him had I known that he would arrive with scratched nose, a scratched visor, scratches on his forehead, and a scuff on his torso. So the imperfections, the defects, the scratches that mar his face are a deterrent. In other words, the scratches that mar his face serve as a deterrent for me to buying it. Let me revamp that one final time. The scratches that mar his face serve as a deterrent for me to buy him. And as I stated earlier, if his authentic, genuine condition was advertised, then I would have completely abstained from buying him. But he arrived with a chipped nose, scratches on the forehead, and a scuff on the torso. So that just really bothers me. It agitates me. It irritates me. It invokes my fury. And I guess I could take recourse by returning him, but I don't want to have to go through the hassle of returning him and going to the post office and dealing with all of that. That's a calamity within itself, and that takes ample time to undergo. So I would just prefer if he would issue me a partial refund. Now, I would have preferred if he didn't utilize a stock photo. I would deem that to be false advertising, especially if the figurine's appearance does not emulate the appearance that he flaunts in the stock photo. So if his appearance is not aligned with the stock photo's appearance, then it's false advertising. Because in the stock photo, he didn't have a chip nose. In the stock photo, he didn't have scratches on his forehead. In the stock photo, he didn't have a scuff on the torso. So that's false advertising that's false advertising from an objective, meticulous standpoint. And what else? And I just overpaid, considering he had a chip nose, considering he had a scuff in his torso, and considering he had scratches on his forehead. I had no way of knowing that, though, because I presume that he looked akin to his stock photo and that he was in very good condition. But a figurine with a chip nose, a figurine with a scratched forehead, a figurine with a scratched visor, a figurine with a scuffed torso, a figurine missing a tiny bit of plastic on his cape, is not in very good condition. At least I wouldn't constitute him to be in very good condition. I would never deem him to be in very good condition with all those defects. So there's nothing I can do except take recourse and return him, or implore the seller to issue me a partial refund. But if I beseech the seller to issue me a partial refund, and if he declines my request, then I'll either have to return him or concede to the $10.95 price tag. And if I concede to the $10.95 price tag, then maybe in the future I can buy acrylic paint and paint over the chip nose and paint over the scratches, and try to cover up the scuffs so they're obscured. And I guess that's about it. So here's Dr. Mid-Nite. Now, if he didn't have these defects, if he didn't have the chip nose, if he didn't have plastic missing on his cape, if he didn't have some minor scratches on his forehead, then I would be content with paying $10.95 for him. But since he does have defects which were not advertised nor showcased in the listing, I am discontent with my purchase and decision, and I do have qualms about it. So always be meticulous, scrutinize what you buy, and if it arrives in a condition not as advertised, then take recourse and contact the seller and request either a partial refund or a refund, or try to work something out. But if I have to go to the post office and return it, I guess it's not the end of the world. Maybe I could buy another Dr. Mid-Nite figurine in the future that doesn't have a chip nose. But what mainly agitated me, what really triggered this whole situation, was having him arrive with a chip nose, which was not listed in the description. The description should delineate all of his defects, or at least it should showcase his defects. He utilized a stock photo and he listed him in very good condition. However, I received a figure that wasn't in very good condition, and I received a figure that does not emulate the appearance of the stock photo in every facet. Because in the stock photo he doesn't have a chip nose, in the stock photo he doesn't have a chip cape, in the stock photo he doesn't have minor scratches on his forehead, in the stock photo he doesn't have a minor scratch on his visor. So if the appearance does not emulate the appearance of the stock photo, then the stock photo should never be utilized. At least that's my perspective, that's my viewpoints, that's my opinion, those are my sentiments pertaining to this issue, and hopefully it will get resolved and rectified and remedied in the imminent future. So that's all I wanted to divulge and convey and apprise you of. I hope that you deemed this video to be insightful and enthralling, but if this figurine was devoid of the defects, then I would rate him to be 9 out of 10. He does have fisted hands, he has articulation in over 10 joints, and what else? He stands roughly 6 inches tall. He has a stupendous sculpt. His shadings, his textures, his aesthetics, his hues are high quality. His appearance emulates his comic book appearance, but the defects are deterrent to buy him for a price tag of $10.95, and I'm discontent with succumbing to that price tag post discovering his true, genuine, authentic condition. So the seller should have disclosed that, but since he didn't, I got duped. So I hope that you found this video to be enthralling and insightful. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye.